Welcome back to This Is Not CBC.
Good evening, viewers. This is not CBC. I'm not here to sugarcoat or sanitize. Tonight, we're diving headfirst into the abyss of the Jeffrey Epstein files, the massive trove of documents, emails, photos, and videos released by the U.S. Department of Justice in late 2025 and early 2026. Over 3 million pages, 2,000 videos, and 180,000 images that expose a web of power, perversion, and potential cover-ups. We're talking about the most shocking revelations, from unsubstantiated claims of baby sacrifices and ritual abuse, to adoption agencies tangled in the mess, emails hinting at violence and death threats, a who's who of names dropped in damning contexts, theories that Epstein faked his death, Donald Trump's role in the saga, and even Ghislaine Maxwell's bizarre email referencing the World Trade Center. Buckle up, this is the unfiltered truth, backed by the files themselves. No spin, just facts. Let's break it down. First, the big picture. These files stem from decades of investigations into Epstein, the convicted sex offender and financier who died in 2019, officially by suicide, but we'll get to the doubts. The releases were mandated by the Epstein Files Transparency Act, signed by President Donald Trump in November 2025 after he initially opposed it. The DOJ dropped the largest batch on January 30, 2026, including emails with billionaires like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, photos of Epstein with powerful figures, and FBI tips that range from credible victim statements to wild, unverified allegations. Critics say redactions protect the elite, but what's out there is explosive enough to shake foundations. Let's start with one of the most horrifying threads: claims of baby sacrifices and ritual abuse. In the files, FBI reports detail anonymous tips and witness statements alleging occult practices tied to Epstein's network. One 2019 internal FBI email chain between the New York field office and NYPD's Child Exploitation Task Force documents allegations of ritual sacrifice, dismembered babies, and torture videos involving children. Some tips describe human sacrifice and eating children in elite circles, with references to Epstein's Island as a site for these horrors. These come from unsubstantiated sources, often dismissed by investigators as implausible or part of community hysteria reminiscent of the Salem witch trials. No charges stemmed from them, and outlets like the Associated Press note that agents followed up but found no evidence. Still, the sheer volume of these claims in the files, echoed in conspiracy circles like Pizzagate, paints a picture of a dark underbelly that Epstein's victims say was real, even if exaggerated. One survivor called the DOJ's sloppy redactions traumatizing, as personal info leaked alongside these nightmarish accounts. Connected to this is the adoption agency angle, which fuels trafficking theories. The files mention Susan Hamblin, a financial advisor and founder of Kids Two Families Adoption Agency, in contexts linked to Epstein donors and associates. Speculation in the documents and related leaks ties adoption networks to Epstein's operations, with claims that agencies served as fronts for moving children. Peter Nygard, the Canadian billionaire mentioned in the files, faced separate trafficking probes involving minors, and some tips allege overlaps with adoption rings. However, no direct evidence in the releases proves Epstein's involvement in baby trafficking or sacrifices. Much of this stems from unverified FBI tips. Critics point to the global adoption industry as a sanitized version of trafficking, but the files stop short of confirming it here. Shocking? Absolutely. Proven? Not yet. Now, emails about killing people. These get chilling. The trove includes communications hinting at threats and violence. One standout is Epstein's exchanges with associates discussing eliminating problems, though context is often redacted. More concretely, files reveal emails about Epstein's own death. An investigator noted that his final note does not appear to be a suicide note, fueling murder theories. Tips to the FBI allege Epstein was unalived to silence him, with claims of foul play involving high-profile figures. No proof, but the documents show Epstein emailing Steve Bannon months before his death, warning about Democrats demonizing Trump like a mafia figure. Other emails reference torture videos and ritual sacrifices, tying back to the abuse claims. Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's co-conspirator now serving 20 years, is central. Files show her emailing about discrediting victims and circulating compromising info. One email chain from 2019 discusses horrible photographs and troubling correspondence, but Deputy AG Todd Blanche downplayed prosecution chances, saying it doesn't allow us to prosecute somebody. The implication? Powerful people might have motive to silence witnesses. Speaking of names, the files are a Rolodex of the elite, with over 150 individuals mentioned across court documents, emails, flight logs, contact books, and other records. Here's a comprehensive breakdown of every name referenced in the release files, based on the unsealed materials and the context in which they're mentioned. Note that inclusion doesn't imply wrongdoing. Many are victims, witnesses, employees, or tangential contacts, but the associations range from benign to deeply troubling. Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's former girlfriend and co-conspirator, convicted of sex trafficking, central to recruiting victims, mentioned thousands of times in emails, court filings, and photos. Virginia Lee Roberts Giuffre, Epstein victim and key plaintiff in lawsuits. Her testimony details abuse and names numerous associates. Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor British Royal accused of sexual assault by victims. Emails show him offering to introduce Epstein to a 26-year-old Russian woman, invitations to Buckingham Palace, photos with victims, and walking with Epstein in Central Park. Name appears hundreds of times. James Michael Ostrich, mentioned in early lists of associates, context redacted but tied to Epstein's network. Naomi Campbell, supermodel, mentioned in flight logs and as a social contact. Paul Castle, attorney involved in Epstein-related litigation. Bill Clinton, former U.S. president, mentioned over 50 times in flight logs, emails, and testimony. A victim claimed Epstein said Clinton likes them young, referring to girls. Dealings with Epstein noted, but no accusations of wrongdoing. David Copperfield, magician, mentioned in testimony about visits to Epstein's properties and interactions with young women. Alexandra Cousteau, environmental activist, listed as a contact. Cameron Diaz, actress, mentioned in passing in Epstein's contact book, no further details. Leonardo DiCaprio, actor, referenced in contact lists and social mentions. Alan Dershowitz, lawyer, defended Epstein, accused by victims of abuse, which he denies. Extensive mentions in legal filings. Dr. Mona Devnesan, medical professional tied to Epstein's network, the Bradley Edwards, attorney for victims. Amanda Ellison, potential witness or employee. Simberly Espinoza, listed in associate rosters. Jeffrey Epstein, the central figure, convicted sex offender. All documents revolve around his activities. Mike Wallace, journalist, name in Epstein's Black Book. Barbara Walters, broadcast journalist, in Black Book. Vera Wong, fashion designer, on schedules and birthday book. Bob Weinstein, film executive, in Black Book. Elon Musk, tech billionaire, exchanged emails about holiday invites to Epstein's Island in 2012 to 2013, despite later denials. Bill Gates, Microsoft co-founder, in drafts where Epstein alleges affairs denied by Gates, emails about meetings post-conviction. Steve Tisch, New York Giants co-owner, named 440 times, connected to women in vulgar email terms. Sergey Brin, Google co-founder, mentioned in contact lists and potential meetings. Howard Lutnick, Cantor Fitzgerald CEO, in emails and schedules. Ehud Barak, former Israeli PM, flight logs and visits to Epstein's properties. Mette-Marit of Norway, Norwegian royal, mentioned in social contacts. Bill Richardson, former New Mexico governor, accused in victim testimony of involvement, denied before his death. Michael Jackson, singer, mentioned in testimony about visits to Epstein's home, no wrongdoing alleged. Stephen Hawking, physicist, referenced in emails about island visits and a redacted event. Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, in contact book. Larry Summers, economist and former Treasury Secretary. Extensive email exchanges post 2018, including discussions about women described as ments. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., politician, flight logs and contacts. Michael Wolff, journalist and author, in emails. Steve Bannon, former Trump advisor, emailed Epstein months before his death about political matters. George Lucas, filmmaker, mentioned in contact lists. Al Gore, former U.S. Vice President, referenced in associate mentions. No new charges have emerged from these mentions, but the breadth shows Epstein's access to power even after his conviction. On Epstein being alive, conspiracy gold. Files include emails questioning his suicide. One investigator's note says his final words don't read like a farewell. Tips allege he was taken out, or faked death via body double. Official rulings. Suicide by hanging, confirmed by NYC medical examiner and DOJ inspector general. But the documents revive doubts, with photos of his messy cell and claims of guard negligence. No evidence he's alive, but the files' redactions fuel the fire. Trump's role. The files show he flew on Epstein's plane multiple times in the 1990s, contradicting his denials. Trump signed the Transparency Act, but fought it initially, calling it a Democrat hoax. No proof he turned Epstein in. Their friendship soured in 2004 over a property bid, and Trump banned him from Mar-a-Lago after learning of inappropriate behavior. Files include tips alleging Trump knew about the girls, but unsubstantiated. Trump claims the releases absolve him. Finally, Ghislaine Maxwell's World Trade Center email. In a 2002 exchange with the Invisible Man, possibly Andrew, Maxwell writes a bizarre joke said in 2032. A father and son at the WTC site, the father sighing about the Twin Towers. It ends with the son asking, "What are Twin Towers?" A dark 9/11 reference, just months after the attacks. Files show no wrongdoing, but it highlights her odd humor amid the horror. Everything in between? Files reveal Epstein's prison psych report, disputes between officials like Mervyn King, and tips of cannibalism and brain weapons. Redactions hide victim info, but leaks traumatize survivors. No major prosecutions, yet Deputy A.G. Blanche says the review found no basis for new cases. This is the Epstein Files, a mirror to elite corruption, with shocking claims that demand accountability. But will it come? This is not CBC. Stay vigilant. Good night.